Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up.
Hello, it's Adam Morrison. When it comes to top-tier contracting, my go-to choice is McGillivray Environmental. I know a thing or two about excellence, and that's exactly what you'll find with Kip McGillivray and his team. They're not just any contractor, they're the best in Spokane and North Idaho. From start to finish, they ensure your project is completed with the highest quality results. With years of experience and expertise, they handle it all. New construction, meticulous repairs, asphalt paving for residential and commercial properties, excavation, and even environmental remediation. So why wait? Reach out to Kip McGillivray Environmental today by calling 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. Don't forget to mention my name, Adam Morrison, and experience the difference McGillivray Environmental brings to the table. Again, that's 208-556-6384, McGillivray Environmental. My number one choice for all my contracting needs.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe.
Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First
Welcome to the
thing
Perimeter, Season 4, Episode 14, presented by McGillivray Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union. Short recap of Portland at the Spokane Arena. Good game, blowout, and then another blowout down in LA versus LMU. And then kind of the much anticipated unique game that we haven't had in a while. We have San Diego, who cares, Washington State at McCarthy Athletic Center on Saturday, January 11th. It's been a while since we've played them. Mm-hmm. It's a unique rivalry because obviously the location. I think there's a lot of fans that are Washington State fans, football, and then they migrated over to basketball. But then when the basketball team becomes relevant like they are now, like good, decent, they go back to their true colors.
Yeah, totally.
And that's not a knock, but that's just the truth. So it's going to be fun to kind of see where people's allegiance are. And I think it's good for the area. Obviously, Washington State, Oregon State are in the WCC, but they're going to be in the Pac-12, so we're going to play each other forever, in theory. So it's going to be a new rivalry. It'll be cool when we play them down there as well, because there will be a lot of Gonzaga fans in theory, and then also a lot of Washington State fans kind of marking their territory, whatever the term would be, and kind of trying to sell that out with a lot of red instead of Gonzaga red, or crimson. So we'll get into that. First of the Portland game was interesting. It was the Community Cancer Fund game, which I think is a great event. They do a good job. I think they've raised, I think the number was like 18 million or something like that for the community over the lifespan of the organization. So hats off to them and having a game every year to, add to that pot or whatever you want to say, add to those coffers, and the money stays local. And so that's obviously a neat thing, and nothing against massive organizations, but if you're going to spend money and donate money, you want it for your neighbors and yourself. You know what I mean?
100%.
So that was cool. Portland wasn't very good as we predicted. Shante Liggins got 7 freshmen. He's trying to go the other route. He tried grad transfers last year, didn't work, so he's going with the 7 freshmen. I don't blame him. And they just look really young, bunch of newcomers, and we took care of business that game. I mean, I don't even think we need to talk about it much. We won by, 31? Nemhard played good after a bad game down in Pepperdine. Even though we won, he didn't play great. Probably his only quote-unquote bad game this year. He has 10 and 9, only 2 turnovers. Nolan Hickman was good, had 13 points on 5 of 8. Ben Gregg, we have to know, got put in the starting lineup for Ajayi that game, so that was an interesting thing to discuss. He had an okay game, 7 points. Caliph Battle, had 10 points that game, and Dusty Stromer was terrific, had 12, 5 and 9, and then Braden Huff had 10. So it was just an overall good performance. We shot the ball well. Let's see what our splits were. Let's see here. 29 to 68. So what is that? 42%, not terrible, not great, but 11 to 24 is what I was thinking of as 45 from 3, and it was kind of, we were on a downward trend for a bit. So that was a nice conference win. Again, I thought it was weird that the conference put us Pepperdine first, and then Portland, and then back to LMU. If people are not familiar with the geography of the WCC, it used to be you'd have travel partners, and I get it when it became unbalanced with BYU coming into the league. There was the excuse of why you didn't have travel partners, but when I played, and for many years after that, you'd play Pepperdine and LMU.
Yeah.
You'd be in LA, and then when you played Santa Clara, you went Santa Clara, St. Mary's, because you were in the Bay. And then San Diego was the odd one, and Portland was the odd one, right? But I think actually sometimes with San Diego, you would mix it in with LMU or Pepperdine. You know what I mean? They figured out a way where you just take that hour and a half up to 405 or whatever it is. So anyway,
I want to stir the pot one little thing. LMU played a game at the arena on Monday versus WSU.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I heard that, I was like, why didn't they just stay in Spokane? I was like, it was this.
Well, again,
scheduling.
Again, it just, I don't understand people's thought process when it comes to budgets. Obviously, there's bigger, things that, scheduling of the gyms and things like that. But also when everybody's always talking about money and just the way how expensive things are for everybody, right? Just in totality of life. Why wouldn't you try to just play all the games and stay? You know what I mean? And then I'm going to go further. Then you're always talking about saving the environment. Why would you take more flights? You know what I'm saying? Like the schools always talk about that stuff. Then why are we taking an extra 2 sets of flights to get to where we need to go? Anyway, that's here nor there. So we play that game, hop on a flight to on Friday down to LMU, go right back to LA. We were just there for 4 days for the UCLA Pepperdine deal. And LMU is always an interesting place to play. They've done a better job in the past of revamping that gym. It's got a lot of history. They were a proud program in the late 80s, early 90s for a good 5-year stint with Paul Westhead, and they ran the kind of run and shoot, and it was way ahead of his time. They were scoring the 130s back then.
Oh, wow.
120s. And obviously the Hank Gathers teams at Bo Kimball, and then obviously the tragedy with Hank Gathers. So it's a unique gym. It's just kind of like a box. It looks like a big barn. But they've repainted it and tried, but you can just tell that nobody really gives a shit at all. So when we come to town, the students show up, but you're you can tell it's their first time coming there. So they're trying, and it's not a knock, but they're in by Marina Del Rey in LA. I get why they're not going to college basketball game. I get it. That's my point. Is okay, we're down at LMU. It's all good. So when you go when you play them, it's a very superficial feel to the game. They try, but it's not a visceral fan base at all, and it's a little bit odd. And in the last few times, because remember last year they beat us at home. They broke the streak, and so then when we came down there, I think we were up 20-2 or something like that. Just really jumped on them. But it was sad because I talked about it last season. They had their band and all the students, and the students literally left at halftime. It was oh shit, reality check,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we started off great in that game, and did a good job of just kind of taking away their belief. I've talked about that a ton, and if you listen to my broadcast with Huddy, with these lower teams, I always express hey, if you let them stay in the game, they have a chance. They're Division I basketball players. They can hit a lot of shots, Pepperdine, right, in the second half. They can get going. They're good players. But if you take away their belief, they're going to be well, let's Gonzaga. Let's just pack this thing in. And we did exactly that. I mean, we were up 18 in the first half, 46-28. Shot the ball well in the first half, 18 of 35. 3 of 5 from downtown. Obviously, perfect from the free throw line, 7 of 7. Just had a really good thing going. Graham Ike, for the total of the game, was terrific. 27 points, 9 rebounds, no turnovers, 12 of 16. So that's how many games back to back is that? Or he's had, I think it's 5 out of 7 where he scored 25 out of the last 7.
Okay, yeah.
So he's been absolutely terrific, and it was exactly like mirrored like last year. Because remember last year he started off not very good, and you're like, you weren't like, oh my God, but you're like, well, he hasn't played in 18 months, and we're not at Wyoming, and you know what I mean? So you were trying to make excuses, but you're also like, hey man, if you're one of the big NIL guys and one of the big guys in the transfer portal, you need to be ready to go. And then he was terrific the rest of the year, and that's why he was preseason third team All America, pick like, and it's the same this year. Like he didn't start off great, but it wasn't as bad, air quotes, but he's really turned it on and been like really a staple inside. So congrats to him for figuring that out and just kind of slowing down and playing the right way. Nemhard had a solid game, another double-double, 10 points, 11 assists, 4-11 from the field. So not a great shooting night, but anytime you're getting a double-double out of your point guard and only 2 turnovers is terrific. Yeah. Nolan Hickman didn't shoot it well, 2 for 8, only 5 points, but Caleb Battle was absolutely terrific, 10 of 12, 4 or 5 from downtown, got super hot, 26 points. And this is, something that we want to see out of a guy. He's been great all season, but I want to see like a perimeter guy go 10 for 12 or give me a 14 of 17 and go kind of bonkers. You know what I mean? And that just opens yourself up as a group, and then it's hard to scout all those things when you can show teams that you have that ability. And this is great as well. Ajayi off the bench, second game we just talked about how Ben moved into the starting lineup. 15 points, 5 of 8, made a 3, 4 of 4. We need him to play well. And I don't know the kid. I've been around him just a little bit. Obviously I'm around the team a ton, but I've barely spoken to him. And besides just, hey, man, how you doing? Yeah. Good luck tonight, things of that nature. From all accounts, he's terrific. We don't take assholes. I mean, I know that sounds funny, but like Coach Few's done a good job on culture, not taking like maybes. Or if there is some maybes, it's only one, and it's like, hey, we're going to surround them. And they kind of get a warning, like, if you kind of mess up here, we're not about the, like, look the other way type of deal. Yeah. So I'm just giving context. It was nice for him to have a good game. Yeah. Because it's just, you watch the Portland game. I know he had 15 rebounds, but I remember, like, the first 4 plays, he, like, missed a wide open layup. Not a wide open, but a Division I layup. And he just, there's just a lid on the basket for the kid, and it's starting to get to where every time he shoots, you can tell he's thinking about it. And this is not me to like stir it up. I'm just giving my thoughts, and I think everybody else is kind of seeing it. He was terrific against UConn. He was terrific last year at Pepperdine. When he flies around and is around the rim like he was and can use his athleticism and just plays, he's an all-league kid. He's an NBA-type body. He's an NBA-type chance. So happy for the kid, and hopefully he continues it and just go out and play, let it rip. It's your senior year. I think he has another year of eligibility actually with that new JUCO rule, which is interesting. Yeah. But my point is like, it's nice to see the kid have some success. It's not fun when you're watching somebody that you know is a good person, playing hard, trying hard, everybody's encouraging, and it's just not going your way. And we've all probably dealt with that in sports or not, right? And it's hard to get out of that rut. I've dealt with it in sports. I've dealt with it a little bit in life. I'm sure you have. But when you're just like, man, shit, and the easy stuff's not even working right now. Yeah. And so, watching the game and seeing the box was like, yeah, we need that. Good job, Mike. So, all in all, obviously a good start to the West Coast Conference season, 3-0. We talked about last episode, and I'm going to reiterate how much better this league is, and it's not just me trying to pump it up to make it sound like pump this podcast up in our broadcast. Like if you look at the net rankings, it's better than it has been in a long time. So starting off 3-0, I know they're the lower end teams, it still is important because it's going to get more difficult, and there is a legitimate chance that it could be a 14-2 type season, a 13-3 type. That's what it was last year. You know what I'm saying? So like the idea that it's 16-0 or 18-0 or whatever that is foregone. It's like, no, this is a year that road games and playing certain matchups and different athletic bodies, Washington State, Oregon State, I'll get into it, in San Francisco, is different, right? It's a little bit more different than we've experienced. So great start to the season after a tough loss against UCLA. We got San Diego coming up, not very good. Let's go over their numbers. 285 in the net, 4-12. I'm not even going to talk about them. And then, like I said, Saturday is the Washington State game. 13-3, 3-0 in conference.
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Going good? Thank you, yes.
Like I said, Saturday is the Washington State game. 13-3, 3-0 in conference, 69 in the net. Obviously, the top 68 make the NCAA tournament. So anytime you're in the top 100, you're considered like an NCAA tournament type team, and then it counts as a quad 1 or a quad 2 win. I've talked about that before, but you got to tip your cap to David Riley. Kind of got thrust into this job. Late. Kyle Smith does a good job of getting it back to relevancy. And when I say all this stuff, I'm not a UW fan or a Washington State fan just being a Zag. But when I'm saying, like, back to relevancy, I'm not, like, being like, you guys are shitty. It's just the reality. Like, I get the reality of college sports in Pullman.
Right.
Recruiting there. That's what I'm doing. And it's not a knock. I have lots of Washington State friends. I actually cheer for them in football a little bit. I don't really care, but when Mike Leach was rolling around, I'm like, oh yeah, the Cougs, hell yeah. Totally. You know what I mean? Like, throw it 72 times a game. Awesome. You know, that type of deal. But also, you know, I'm not going to brag about drinking Busch Light and stuff like that.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Totally.
But yeah, anyway, they're good. David Riley has done a fantastic job. Was at Eastern, I believe he was at Whitworth before. So he's cut his teeth, done the right things, you know, coaching wise, kind of earned his stripes. And it's got this program rolling in the right direction. So it's going to be a difficult game. Like I said, at McCarthy Center is going to be great. The students will be back, which is going to be great for our home court advantage.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some Washington State fans mixed in there.
Absolutely.
And so that's going to be curious. I think it's great for the deal. I always like, and again, I know I just made a crack, but I like when Washington State's relevant. It's just better for the area in any sport, basketball included. I liked those teams when they had Aaron Baines. I can't remember, the Hawaiian kid was good. Obviously, Klay Thompson, that era. You know what I mean? What's the other kid's name?
Derek Lowe.
Yeah, Derek Lowe. And then what was the guard was good. Man, what was his name? I played against him a couple times in Summer League. Really good defender. Anyway, he was good. Nice guys. Thomas Kaladi before that played at Walla Walla was a good dude.
Totally.
Played at Washington State, good player. Had a great overseas career. So my point is, like, you know, I think it's great for the area. Like I said, they're 13-3, 69 in the net rating. David Riley can coach. They have Pac-12 bodies. I don't know, it's Pac-2 right now, but people know what I'm saying. I watched the game against UW. UW really took it to them, but I was watching personnel. They look like they can match up well against us. If you're David Riley, and it almost goes without saying, I mean, it's one of those deals like, hey, all the attention, or not all, but most of the attention basketball-wise goes to the Gonzaga. Like, do you want to make a name for yourself? You know what I mean? Like, here's a great opportunity to take our program to the next level. That's anybody, but locally. And so there's that extra added motivation. So I think it's a terrific matchup. It's going to be fun. Hopefully we're 4-0 going in that game. I think we should beat San Diego. Like I mentioned, they're not very good. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be fun atmosphere, having the students back, and then having a local rivalry. I think it's great. It's great for local fans that, like I said, and it's not a crack, but I know like plenty of Washington State grads that like wear their Wazoo stuff on Saturday, and then like they root for the Zags. But I know that like if they're relevant in basketball, they'll put the basketball jerseys back on, and that's not a knock. You can like both, but I think totally. I think there's some that are like, kind of wish, like, man, I wish we were better at basketball. I'm tired of rooting for Gonzaga. You know what I mean? Like, or just whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be weird having WSU. Well, I mean, obviously they're in the WCC right now, but going into the Pac-12, like it has the shapings of being a big rivalry going forward, right?
Yeah. It does. And we played them. I played them twice, if my memory served. Yeah, I played them twice. It might have been 3 times. 2 for sure. I know I played. Yeah, it was 2. It was 2 for sure. So we played them at home my freshman year. Beat them. Mm-hmm. I think Corey Violet had a monster game, 30-something, and one of those. Then we played them my sophomore year down there. We beat them like 54-52. Derek Ravio, I think, made free throws down the stretch. And I remember running off the floor and like celebrating, and it was a hostile environment, which was great.
Yeah.
And I remember Coach Few being so like pissed off at me and Rav because we were like not showboating, but he was like, it's just because we barely won and we should have not barely won, and we were like, we won the league or something like that. And I remember him being very upset. So yeah, it's always been an interesting lineup because when I played them, it was Bennett, the original, or the father. I don't know why.
Not Randy
Dick
Bennett.
Dick Bennett. Yeah, Dick Bennett. So like Tony Bennett, who just retired at UVA, legend down there, and he's the one that had those good teams with Derek Lowe. You know what I mean? But if you want to talk about like slowing the basketball down, like Dick Bennett, they fucking walked it up the floor. So like the whole game plan was we pressed, and it was like if we can get up 10 within the first 5 to 10 minutes, basically the game is over. It's like we're up 20 because there's so less possessions, or we're gonna have to speed them up, and they don't like to play that way. So it was always like super anxiety at the start of the game to play well. And the first game we did, and then like I mentioned this my sophomore year, the second game we didn't, and then it was like 54-52 or something like that. They got to their style. Always tough nose, hard nose, played hard. They had the, I'm tired of listening about you guys, you know what I mean, type of thing. So it was always a little bit chippy. And a lot of times too, I mean, I'm just going to be honest, like you're going to the same universities within an hour and a half. Like you might have dated the same girl, know the same people. I'm just being real, like going to people would go down for football games, and I know Gonzaga guys, not as much when I was playing, but guys after me would go down there and almost get in fights, not by design, but guys would get pissed. Like, why are you down here? Like, dude, I just went to a football game. I went to an after party. Like, I know a lot of your students are Spokane kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
That type of stuff would happen. So there was always a little bit chippiness going on. So it's interesting. But again, I think it's terrific for the community. They're a good basketball team. It's not like the last 5, 6, 7 years before Kyle Smith where it was kind of doldrums. They're good. And I've watched them, and they got some good players. They match up well. They play hard. All those things that matter. He runs good actions. They got a kid in Cedric Coward averaging 17 and a half. They got the Nate Calmise 16 and a half. LaJohn Watts 13 and a half. Let's see. Dane Eric Strupp, I can't even say the last name, 12 and a half. Isaiah Watts 12 and a half, and Ethan Price almost 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys averaging double figures.
Yeah.
Good basketball club.
Totally.
Shoot it well, 49.5% from the field, right around 50. 36 from 3 on 400 attempts, which is a ton. Terrific.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, you want to be, if you're above 35, you're fine. You want to be obviously 38s, 39s, 40s, but if you're above 35, you're fine. Good from the free throw line, +5 on the glass. 81 points per game. So, this is a good basketball club, and it's going to be a fun matchup. So, hopefully our guys understand kind of the rivalry or what it means. I know it's not like a blood rivalry with, St. Mary's or whatever, but having the local feel it means something, and they need to understand it, because I know the Washington State people do understand it, because they've wanted to play us for years, and we just didn't because it didn't make sense. And if you're a Washington State fan and you're listening to this and you're like, that's a nose up in the air thing, it's like, no, you guys were always in the 250s in the net. It didn't make sense for us to play you down in fucking Pullman. It just didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a no-win situation. We beat you, cool. If we lose, oh my God. So why give you that opportunity? I don't think some people understand how like the metrics work. It's just, that's part of like college sports. That's part of how you schedule things. And I've talked about formulas with NCAA tournament seeds. It's part of the formula. Like you'll play a 250 RPI team or whatever, Ken Palm team, but you're not going to have them an hour and a half away where half their fans can be there.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Totally.
And some people would never understand. Because I get asked, like, how come we don't play? What, are you guys scared? It's like, no, we're not scared. But, like, you could play us at our place. We ain't going to your place. Why? And then you bring that up, and they're like, well, that's soft. We're like, okay, we're soft, whatever. Oh, my God, but it's like it just doesn't – we earned that right for you guys to come play us.
Yeah. I think we'll learn on Saturday why Gonzaga has never had WSU come play them in the kennel. Or I guess it's been a while since they've been in a while.
We played there.
Yeah. And because it's going to – I mean, it's always rowdy. It's going to be a hard-fought game. It's going to be – I mean, I don't know if it's going to be fights, but they're going to get after it. I know they are.
Yeah, there's going to be, there's always the extra chippiness, like I said, and which is good. And again, like they're good. Yeah, they're not. It's not just they're the little, stepbrothers down in Pullman basketball wise. That's not what I'm saying. Like this is a good team. They're 13-3. And David Riley could coach. He did a good job at Eastern, and then kind of got thrust into the job because Kyle Smith left, kind of out of nowhere. And it's like you got, there's steps to this thing, and there's nothing wrong with Eastern, but it's the Big Sky. So you're going to the Pac-2 now, but Pac-12, right? Yeah. So like you kind of, if you move up, you kind of have to do it. And he had it late. He kind of got the job late too, and it's like he's done a good job with his roster. Like I mentioned, all those guys averaging double-figure points. He's got good bigs. I've watched the guard play. It's like this is a good basketball team. I mean, like I said, I've watched 2 times where I've kind of flipped. I'm like, oh, Washington State's on. I know we're gonna, I'm not gonna watch them. So let me see what's going on. I'm like, I know they got beat by UW the game I was explaining, but I was like, oh shit, that personnel looks pretty good. Like the big white kid was good. You know what I mean? I was like, holy crap. So anyway, it'll be a fun, experience. I'm happy for. Washington State, not in a pity way, but it's like cool. You guys finally get to play us, and it's good. And then you get to have a game down there, and that's gonna be harder than hell for us to beat you down there. And I'm glad that they're back to relevancy. And again, it's not a nose in the air thing. It's just the reality of it because I think it's good for the area. I like when they're good in sports. It's more fun. It's more fun when they're like 8-3 in football. It is, you know what I'm saying? It's cool. Kind of root for them a little bit, and then so it should be a good week. It's going to be an interesting deal. We can go 5-0 and really take a control of the league because they're 3-0 obviously, and get ourselves in the second place, and then looking forward to the Santa Clara, San Francisco, St. Mary's matchups that are coming up. Because I mean, if we're talking about net. Right, they are fantastic as well, and it's not just us pumping the league up. The numbers say it. St. Mary's is 45 in the net, like we mentioned. Washington State 69, San Francisco 61, Santa Clara 77, Oregon State dropped a little bit to 80. Yeah, it's pretty good. 12-4 us. St. Mary's 13-3, Washington State 13-3, San Francisco 13-4, Santa Clara 10-6, Oregon State 12-4. It's a good league. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's awesome, but it's also like, oh, the league's going to disappear in 2 years. Not disappear, but we're leaving, and then obviously Washington State and Oregon State. But, yeah, I like when the league is like this because it gets kind of sleepy during that time, and then the arguments come like, well, if they were in the Big 12, it'd be a lot better. Yeah. It's also like, was it 9 straight Sweet 16s? I don't know where you get the, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know where you get that. It magically hurts us, that type of deal. So yeah, do we got any listener questions?
Yeah, I got a couple. The first one comes from David. The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
listener questions?
Yeah, I got a couple. The first one comes from David. He said, what technique is better to make a layup? An underhanded layup, which everyone does now, or an overhanded layup? He said the last person I saw make an overhanded layup regularly was Larry Bird.
That's a good question. I guess it's context of where you're at in the play. If you're wide open, I guess the underhand is better. Mm-hmm. But if you're around the rim, I'd prefer the overhand and like slap backboard or something like that.
Yeah.
I teach my son's team and my daughter's team always an overhand. I never was a big underhand guy. A lot of trainers like it now because they do the one hand without bringing your other hand to the ball because it's quicker off the dribble.
Right.
But I think at the younger age, it just doesn't make sense to go off with one hand. Their hands are so small.
Yeah.
So I used to kind of get pissed off when my girls would do it. I'm like, what are you doing? Well, my trainer told me to do it. I was like,
yeah, I agree.
I'm not gonna like discount what your parents are paying for, and your trainer's great. But I used to be like, okay, just it better make it. You know what I mean? It's one of those. If you miss it, then I'm gonna get on your ass. But so anyway, I think it's context. To answer the question is where you're at on the floor.
It says, like, I was told with an underhand layup, the player doesn't have enough ball control to get the shot off. If fouled, the player gets a one-on-one to the free throw line. An overhanded layup, player has enough ball control to get the shot off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think you could flip it, and there's hardly ever like wide ass open layups anymore at any. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So I think I teach my son to shoot like kind of a 2 foot. Like jump hook high and soft off the glass too, which is considered a layup as well. So I don't know, man. I think you can argue any which way, but I prefer overhand, old school way.
I was going to ask, what do you make of Ben Gregg getting into the starting lineup over Ajayi?
It's a good question. So I think it was a kind of a necessary deal because as Mike was playing not great for stretches. Because Ben started the season, and then they took him out, the third game or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Second or third game. And it was weird because it kind of got in Ben's deal head a little bit, and then it's flip-flopped, and then Mike didn't play good, and then Ben he had like 4 games in a row where he was in double figures, or he was averaging like 12 in the last 4. So he was playing terrific, but I think he's better off the bench, but then Mike was playing like not very good, like bad.
Yeah.
And so you were kind of like, we need production in the starting lineup. But then if you look at the last 2 box, right? So we'll go Portland real quick. Ben Gregg, 7 points, 204. That's obviously not bad, but in 22 minutes, but it's not anything. Well, he had 9 rebounds, so a good game.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you go against LMU. Ben Gregg goes 2 for 4, 4 points, 7 rebounds. So like, is he lighting the world on fire? But when he was coming in off the bench, he was getting to, I mean, it was Pepperdine. He was 5 for 8, had like 12 points. But he had that big 3-point play when we were up 4 with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he kind of gives us the energy. But then in contrast, again, off the bench, Ajayi gives us 15 last game. So I don't know, man. I think either one you're fine. Mike is a more, a better athlete. That can't always account to better play, but just in general, okay, he's a better athlete. You could argue he's a better rebounder, but I think Ben gets a lot more offensive rebounds and kind of the weird ones. Ben's a better shooter. That's not a debate.
Yeah.
I think Ben's a better finisher, or just as of the season's gone on. Then I think Ben makes... a ton of like the little hustle plays. Not that Mike is not trying, that's what I'm saying, but like Ben gets the tip and the dive on the floor. And then I know this sounds funny, but you need a guy that gets up and flexes and does. I know I like joke about it, but it's a real thing. Like when he's fucking winking at the cameras and, you know, doing all of his poses and shit, like everybody gets hyped and it's part of like having a team. You need a guy like that, and he provides that, and he can score. So it's hard because Mike had such a terrific year last year, and he's had great games this year. He just had a bad stretch.
Yeah.
But maybe he's got out of it and just comes off the bench. Mike comes off the bench from here on out and just play. I don't know.
Yeah.
You could do either. But like I said, like I led the show with, I was glad to see Mike have a good game. He needed one because he played great against UConn. He was 6 for 6 at 13 points.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally.
And also too with this type of team, and I got to give context to be fair. With so much talent, and we've seen it with Braden. If you look at Braden's last game, you're like, Jesus, you look like shit. He didn't play very much. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So part of it is, let's say your minutes get out there, and this is like an NBA thing. From my experiences, like, let's say you come off the bench and you know you're going to get like a 5 to 6 minute run. Pretty much all you're going to get, unless you're going bonkers. You're probably going to get a 5 to 6, maybe 7 minute run. And then your stars or your main guys are going to come in no matter what.
Yeah.
If you have like a teammate or just a bad stretch, it's going to look bad on all of you. And you might get yanked early, and then you might not come back in the fucking game. And then so you're just like livid on the bench, and you're just like, what can I do? And then you look down at your box, you're like, oh, 1 for 2, and I played 12 minutes. And you're just like, so sometimes it looks like bad, and it's really not that bad. It's like, did your group extend the lead, or did the lead go the other way? So then your coach brings in back the starters. You know what I mean? So that's what happens sometimes with Braden. It happens sometimes with Dusty. You know what I mean? When they come off the bench, they've had great seasons, and but if they're not like immediately rolling, they play 14 minutes and they're 1 for 3, and you're like, well, that was shitty. And it's like, not really. Maybe their group wasn't that good, and we go back to the starters. So that part, the reason why I'm talking about is that part. Sometimes we have to add the context to Mike, Ben, Braden especially, because he's such a good player. Like with a Pepperdine game, he goes 8 for 8 in the first half. Then he plays 2 minutes in the second half. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? But anyway, there's context to it when there's a lot of talent. There's mixed matched groups or lineups, and you kind of sometimes have to look on not only the number, what numbers are you putting up, but when you go in, does your group extend the lead? Or not, and if you're part of the crew that extends the lead, who cares what your numbers say? And that's kind of an NBA thing sometimes. Like, you'll see role players, and you'll be like, some people are like, well, that guy's only averaging 6. Why is he in the league? It's like, well, he's in the game with the second unit. They're rolling because he's swinging the ball. He's doing all the little things. He's not taking the shots, or he's taking 1 or 2 shots. But the flow is great. Yeah. He's part of the flow. He's part of the engine. So that I think we have to add context a little bit to with some of our bench players, some of our guys who don't start, who don't play as much. You have to look at the totality when they were in the game. Plus minus is one of those things, obviously, but that's kind of a flawed metric too.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to give them somewhat of a break on, like, okay, when when were you in, and what type of shots were you afforded, and all that stuff. So I think Ben and Mike are terrific. They both bring a different aspect. Like I said, I think Ben is a better offensive player just in general within our system. Mike is a more talented player, but Ben has produced more this year. That's just the reality. Can Mike do all those things? Yeah. And then has he had games that we produced? Yeah. So I think it's a win-win for both, or for the program especially. But I think you're going to be fine with whoever starts. Is what I'm trying to get out after.
I think that it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Like, and it's always, when I've watched a team and like seen Dusty come in or Ajayi come in or whoever, like, I'm always like, I'm excited to see them play because I know they're going to contribute, and I know they're not going to like bring down the team. So it's definitely it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem. But it also, as individual players, I think it can get frustrating because sometimes your minutes just get cut.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, hey, man, when you went in and you guys were, let's say you're up 8, and then when you guys, by the time you checked out, you're up 6. He's going with and then the next crew that comes in, your starters, they're plus 14. He's going to leave those guys in. It's just how it works. And so you kind of have to, it's difficult not to go in there and try to freak out and play selfish to get yourself going. But sometimes it's the luck of the draw, man. And you just got to sit there and try not to pout.
Yeah, totally.
You got to fake it, you know what I mean? Fake it to make it, but you got to fake it on the bench because most of the time you're winning. But it does look selfish if you're complaining. But also you have a legitimate gripe to be upset. You're like, man, shit, I played all right, but why don't I get back in? It's like, well. So welcome to the deal. But anyway, appreciate everybody listening. Thank you to our sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, McGillivray Environmental. Tune back next week.
Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up, hush. This is how I zone out. I'ma take this check, put it on me. I'm a much better boss than an employee. Just cause you got time, don't waste time. It's about time, feel the sunshine. You got time, but don't waste time. It's go time. Employee, I'm an employee cause I go OD on a BEAT. I'm a young OG, been killing these raps since 03. So when a supervisor told me
Podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe. Produced locally in Spokane, Washington at Spocast. The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.